Okay, my outstanding friends, this is just another day at Mud Fossil University. This is, I don't know what you'd call it. What would you call that? There are little posts sticking up here and all this white stuff at the top. What's that all about? Why is this black and red looking? They're all over the place. This is Crowley Lake. I mean, there's just a bazillion of them. What are they doing there? What is going on? Okay, my friends, once again, crazy day, Mud Fossil University. This is hair from a human face. And this is kaolin clay. This is the very fine, slippery clay that they actually use to make fine china, because it's absolutely flawless, and it's kaolin, I call it kaolin. And it comes exactly in skin colors, because that's exactly what it was. These are hairs. Now, you see the little bits of skin? I mean, that is skin. And these are tiny, 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 thin layers. And there is literally thousands and thousands of layers of skin on the tiniest amount of skin that you could ever imagine. Just look at it closely. Take an extra second. Look real close at how much layering there is. Now, the next thing I want you to look at is the variegations here of the hairs. You see them? See them? They all have the same thing. Now, let's take a look at a real close-up of that. Alright, just to cut to the chase, I'm going to say that that stuff at Crowley Lake is hair. And I'm going to show you why there's the red and black. It's because of the blood and the variegation of the hairs and the stuff that eroded away and all of that stuff we're going to go over right now in extreme detail. That's my conclusion, is that what we were looking at there is hair, and the red and the black is blood, and I can explain it, like I said, in pretty good detail. Here we go. Okay, you've seen probably already, or you will see, that there was very straight lines on those other gigantic hairs. And what happens is that from the straight lines, they grow these plates down, and then they just grow down, that allows them to flex and wobble. All right, there's all kind of different hairs on different animals, and they have different types of structure. I believe what we're looking at is, well, these are lynx and marten and river otter and sable, but I believe Crowley Lake looks all to me like it's human. Only thing I don't see is the sweat glands, the sweat pores. That's the only thing that bothers me, whether it's human or not. Or is it in a biological area where there are no sweat pores? I don't know. But I think in the humans there is sweat pores everywhere, but I'm not certain of that. You know, now that I look at the anatomical a little clearer, we're only looking at this very surface area here, and those hairs sticking up, as I showed you, the hairs sticking up the top, and then they show underneath the very, very top layer. This layer here has eroded away, so we're starting to see the red and the black right here, the red and the black attachments. You see them? That's why we're seeing the red and the black right there. We're not seeing the sweat pores because they're way down below. So I think this might be, well, it's starting to look to me like this is a human hair. I was worried about these sweat pores. I was thinking about this bulb, but that bulb is way down. And if they dug down in those hairs, they're going to find one of these. If they should go up and do an excavation, dig down and see what's underneath them. Because that's exactly what they're finding. That's why the red and the black is on that little pin here, and you have all these stripes, and they come out, and that's why your hair can flex like that. And all those plates that look all crazy looking, they slide up and down on each other. All right, so don't forget, you saw the anatomical. The red and the black stuff was looped coming through here, the vein and artery blood, and this is the skin, literally the skin. These little fine variegations here are where those plates cover them, and that way there it can twist on those little twisty spots, and then the plates slide up and down against each other to cover it. Now the plates are gone, and we can see the internal structure basically. Alright, so one last time on this. Remember, that's the skin, the kaolin clay. We're down below, but it still has the same little variegations in the hair, and of course they have these plates that slide up and down on each other, so the hair can bend and flop and twist and do all that sort of stuff. And when this erodes, if it's red clay, it causes red mud and you know, dirt, red dirt. Now the white clays are different. They're the same kind of material basically, but there's just no red pigment in it. And then there's also, well, let me show you quickly the colors of the kaolin and then we'll go. Okay, remember I showed you the kaolin clay right next to the hair sticking out? I said, remember, look how many layers? That's it right there. You get thousands of layers of skin, and that's the layers of skin before you get down to the basement layer where if you penetrate that, you're being attacked. This stuff here is supposed to keep things out of you, keep it out, keep it out. Well, you dig deeper, 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 and then all of a sudden you're inside your flesh. Well, you know what happens when you get a cut. Now you got a place of invasion, and it's going to get hot and inflamed, and there's going to be an attack going on. Here, it's not so bad. There's really nothing here to attack, but there is bacteria and things living in there that try to keep stuff from coming down at you. All right, here's another area. These are hairs. I'm not sure where this is from, but you see these holes in the center of them? And this is all biology. And if you look at very carefully and you look at something, I think it's in Thailand, it's called, I believe it's called Field of Jars or something like that. And they claim that they use these as burial containers. And then they talk about burning the bodies in them and removing the bones. Well, maybe they're just finding biology in these cavities, because they're going to have a cavity in there, and they will be very cleanly made in some cases. In other cases, they just all rotted away like this. But some of them, they show they're very, very nicely done. But you can see there'll be a cone shape to them like this, and that's where they slide over the top of the other ones. And that's my opinion. Now, don't forget, as I said, this is the colors. The red and the black is the vein and artery, as I showed, coming through here, servicing this. All of that stuff eroded away, because that's the floppy, gooey-ish stuff. Then below this is going to be these hair follicles and so forth that go way down into the basement layer. And above is just literally just skin. That's kaolin clay. It's just the finest clay, and above it is the guy's stubble. Oh, there's his stubble. that's the hair sticking up on the top. And down below you saw those columns. And this is just nothing more than skin. The White Cliffs of Dover, same thing, skin. You know, the crazy thing about hair is it's different in different places in your body. On your lip and where your your mustache is and the beard area, there's some fine areas and there's some very, very coarse areas. And they may have a little difference in how straight across they are and how slanted they are. I don't know. But there's a lot of differences in hair structure. So this I believe is human. I would go with that if I had to make a guess. Don't forget, once again, Science Photo Library, kaolin clay. Now that comes in white, it's pure white, as we just saw at Crowley Lake. It comes in this color. It comes in a yellowish and a greenish, which basically are the colors of the human race, skin colors. And you can see these are the same hairs, only these are in a living, growing, and they're flexible, and that's why these things can move up and down on the next layer underneath. But they are pretty well separated very precisely underneath. It's just that the sheathing has to make its movements, so it's a little sloppy looking. But it is what it is. You see how they look a little twisty looking, but underneath they're pretty straight, as we have seen. Okay, my friends, every time I look at this I have to laugh, because look where everybody else is back here. All of a sudden, the hair's washed back. Why is this guy stuck way out here? This is one of those big nasty black hairs you get every now and then you got to pull out, you know. It's probably something like that. It's got to be. Look at why would these things go back here? Oh man, I'll tell you, what a world. You see this person here, what they're on top of, and there's one over here, one over here. Well, let me show you what they're on top of. That, my friends, is what she was on top of, or he, I'm not sure. What is this? That is a hair. And what is this? This is the kaolin clay. That's the clay that surrounds the hair, as we've seen in many times. Now, this hair is extremely eroded, but it's also extremely large. And there's another one right here, surrounded by the kaolin clay. And there's a number of them. Well, there's a lot of them, yes. And they're mostly totally eroded, but there's some good ones left. You see this? I always talk about blood growing green, fluffy stuff. Well, that's blood that's coming out of the top of that hair. And that is a hair. And that is a giant hair, you know, compared to ours. It's not even giant compared to what the giant hairs are on Earth. But this is much bigger than Crowley Lake. And it's still all packed into the kaolin clay. And here's another hair coming up here that's in the kaolin clay. It's just, that's what happens. That is the nature of life, my friends. And we have missed it. But you see all these little pocky looking things here? That's how the pores are in the skin. And that is just a piece of hair growing out of that gigantic chunk of kaolin clay, which is just eroded skin. That's, you know, take a look at it one more time. Just be sure you pay close attention. Look at this hair coming out of here. Look at this. Now, this is highly eroded, obviously. So we're inside. There would have probably been a nice piece like that coming up, and now it's all broken at the top, and it's all covered with vegetation because it loves to grow on blood. And the blood will be coming right up the center. Every hair has a little tiny taste of blood in it. It has to be. Everything in your body has to be serviced with. Well, I can actually show you where the blood comes up in it. Oh yeah, why not? All right, here's again, Science Photo Library. You see that? That's where the blood is going to come out. That's where the blood is going to come out. That's where the blood is going to come out. This is the kaolin clay, the kaolin clay. This guy just shaved himself. See how brutal that is? That's not good. All right, you see this? These are hairs coming into a mole. Something like that, some kind of aberration in the skin that wasn't, you know, these hairs are not coming up through normal skin. All the normal skin eroded. It's just like a wart or something. And the hairs were growing up through it, and that's all that's left over. All right, these ones here, I'm a little on the fence about. I think they call these the fairy structures. I'm not sure where this came from. People send me these things that nobody can explain, and they don't want to talk about them because they can't explain them. So nobody wants me even to mention their names. This, I believe, is a membrane that I would not suspect to see a membrane like that in skin. As you saw, it's just powdery. This looks like a membrane. You can see it running across the whole thing. And that I would suspect to see in intestinal villi. And I think that's what these are. But hard to say. You see these? Remember I talked about those field of jars? You see how perfect that is? And they are the same. These are hairs. They didn't just people make all these things. I think this is what the field of jars is. These are more intestinal villi. I'm almost certain of that. All right, this is Archaeology TV. All right, and they are out looking at this plane of jars mystery, and they're trying to figure out what this are. And they have a whole ton of people working on this, and they're digging in and out. What I want you to know is, I believe these are exactly, well, similar to the hairs in the other areas. And this is lichen. Lichen grows on the black-blooded areas. And we saw there was sections that had a lot of black and sections that had a lot of red. The red ones are going to be mossy looking. Now I have to be honest with you, this one here and this one, these are pretty pretty well defined. Now, could that possibly have been natural, or was that worked? I mean, I think this was probably natural. It could be. I mean, the intricacies of the human body are amazing. When they're preserved correctly, it's just incredible. But whenever you see this lichen, if you look at it close with a microscope, you know, not even a good not a good microscope, it's just a nice, you know, a loop, jeweler's loop. You look at them and you'll see right in the center of it there'll be a hole, and that hole is the vein, black blood area, and that's why they're completely covered with this lichen. All right, this is what I'm suspecting might have happened over there where they have that field of jars, because these, you can see how nicely they're made, and there's going to be like, well, you can almost see it a little bit. You see that? You see that tapering in, and that's what they show. Now, some of them they looks like they are jars, to be perfectly honest with you, because they have a really nice lip to them. However, I think, however, I can tell you one thing for almost 100% certain, that most of them are from the black blood area of the hair, where we saw black and red. The reason I say that is because there's all lichen all over, and that's where black blood grows, is in the lichen. Lichen grows on where the black blood was. And that happens, I'm 100% certain of that. And they are just loaded with lichen. There is a little red blood here and there, because everything has to have a little red blood. But when you get into the vein area, as we saw, well, let's just take another look. All right, here we are right here. What would grow from these would be green, leafy, fuzzy-looking things like moss and so forth. What would grow from this would be lichen. And the only reason this is all eroded out here is because the water has washed away all of this easily washed fine clay. And I believe in that other, where the field of jars is in Thailand there, or whatever it is some kind of an animal's hair. And it could be a human, it could be anything, I don't know. But I believe that's what happened, and that's why there's so much lichen growing on it. This is incredible. I'm just getting ready to put this thing up about the stone jars, and I click on Science Alert. I get them all the time. Strange giant stone jars created by a mysterious people. This is just today. 5 minutes ago. And they're showing the same things I've been showing. And that is a tendon ball. That's got nothing to do with a stone jar. That's the, well, I got one right here. It's the same thing. It's amazing.